Hey guys, Anthony here at the Rag Company, coming at you live on Instagram for a little bit of some detailing. So today we have one of our friends, BMW M4 Competition spec, in the studio, and we are going to be using one of our secret coatings here in just a little bit. I mean, they are secret. I don't know why I did the quotes, but so we're basically getting this all prepped for that particular coating. And right now we've been going through, we're doing a one-step on the car. So we're using a RUPES Yellow Foam Wool, or RUPES Yellow Wool, and then last cut compound. So we're finding that the clear on this is pretty hard. It's pretty tough stuff. But what's nice is that the yellow wool is finishing out beautifully with last cut. And the hood's already been done, and it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. The funny thing, though, is that this particular M4...
What's going on here?
Dude, those are all rock chips. I know, tons of rock chips. So this M4 has like, I want to say it's like 50-something thousand miles on it, but he bought it from New York, and the paint was in pretty rough shape. All things considered. For an M4, I was pretty surprised it was in such rough shape. So we've been kind of going through and trying to refine it a little bit, but really the paint has tons of road rash on it up here on the front. It's got a couple gnarly chips in here that cause some dings. And then I want to say that the previous owner, because it only has two owners, I'm guessing the previous owner took it through a pay and spray and then used the brush that nobody should use on their vehicle, and probably use that on here because there's a ton of deep gouges on here, a lot of just surface swirls. But it's weird because I can tell it was probably brushwork because of the deeper spots that are kind of just random, right? It looks like a brush was used, but it looks like maybe there's some contamination or some contaminants that really caused quite a bit of damage. So at this point in time, I just finished up the roof here. So this is the carbon roof. Now this is carbon with clear on it. So it does have normal clear on it, so you can polish over the top of this. It isn't like an epoxy or a resin that you would see maybe on other carbon that hasn't been UV protected with clear coat. So polishing that like a normal vehicle, just going through, cut that down. And that turned out pretty good because sometimes with the carbon, there's always going to be imperfections, and you never really know how glossy it's going to turn out or how beautiful it's going to be because there's just, every piece of carbon is different, right? Not every piece of carbon is perfect. So, but we went through, finished that up, and so now I wanted to bring you guys along for just a little bit of polishing. We're going to knock out the trunk here because the trunk is pretty bad. So I'm going to grab a scan grip and bring you guys along. So we have some bug etchings on here. We have some hard water. We have the clear that just looks kind of just like dirty clear coat, right? It just doesn't look right. And so what I'm going to do is bring you guys along for about a 50-50 here. So what I'll do is probably cut it in half and show you guys kind of the power of the last cut and the yellow wool. We also have our new pad washer that we're going to be using with the yellow wool. Don't tell the RUPES guys I'm doing that because they don't like the wool with pad washer, but hey, you know, I'm going to do it anyway. And kind of show you guys the difference in what you guys get out of one step. Now, another big thing that people, I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but we've been using the FTW for all of our compound removal. So the FTW, which was originally designed for Windows, which is this guy right over here, originally designed for Windows, we've been utilizing this in so many other applications lately. I mean, everything from, you know, sealant removal to or using it with a sealant such as bead maker, using it with a spray wax, using it with a quick detailer. This particular twist loop weave is just the most versatile towel that, you know, we never knew had so many capabilities. And so we've been using it for compound removal on this, and on hard clear, it's like amazing, right? Because the compound's easy to remove, but because of the hard clear, you know, you have a little bit more wiggle room on towels you can use, right? If this was super soft, I'd probably be using something like a 365, maybe even an Eagle 350. But on something that's harder like this, I'm able to use an FTW and it wipes away beautifully. So with that said, I'm not going to do too much talking here. Jimmy, can you scan grip me? Scan grip me. Yeah, somewhere over there. All right, so we're going to take our last cut over here. We're going to take our RUPES Yellow Wool. Do a, yeah. It's on that seat? Oh, nice. Sorry. Didn't see it there under the Viper chair with all that great storage capability. I mean, the Viper chair is just wonderful for that reason. It is cavernous. So let's go take a look here at the paint we're working with first. So what do you guys think? Left side or right side? This is pretty hammered.
Ooh.
So that's the right side, and then if we come over here, the middle is actually by far some of the worst.
Oh my.
That's pretty bad.
Ooh.
I mean, and then over here,
It's not as bad. It's bad.
I'm gonna say we're gonna knock out the passenger side and cut it right there in the middle.
Never noticed that these had this weird indent in the trunk. This
Yeah.
is kind of strange.
That is kind of strange, and so pretty cool though. I really like these cars. Honestly, the M4. I mean, it's a really cool car. More of an M2 guy myself, but the M4 is still pretty awesome car. So, anyways, let's just jump into this. I'm gonna cut it right here in half. We're going to see what kind of results we get out of doing a one-step with just the yellow wool and last cut. Again, do the wipe off with the FTW and check out our results. So I'm going to be doing a decent amount of working time on here just because I am only one-stepping it, meaning I'm not going to be jumping to a less abrasive pad, right? I'm not going to jump to a foam pad. What I get out of this, what I get, right? And then we'll be coating this here in just a little bit. So throw that cord over my shoulder. Get that on here, set it to a speed setting of 2 just to get it warmed up. Then we're going to jump over to about a 3.5, 4. Come to that halfway point. I am cutting, technically. Now, quick little thing, right? I know I said I was just going to one-step it, and that's really, I'm only going to do one pad, one product, right? But at this point in time, we have a lot of heat here in the building. I want to say it's like roughly 88 degrees here in the actual building that we're in right now. It's pretty toasty, and so when I'm working typically in this kind of heat, I have some humidity from when we wash the car as well. I'm noticing that my compound's just getting a little bit sticky. Even on hard clear, I'm still dealing with some stickiness. So what I like to do for this is just a quick mist of something like paint gloss from P&S onto my pad. Just do 2 quick sprays. I'll do it one more time just to, bam, there you go. One quick, I don't want too much. So I add a quick spray of paint gloss on there, and what that does is going to help cool my pad just a little bit, right? I know it's still like 88-degree liquid, but it's better than what's on the surface of this pad here. So I spray a little bit of that on there to cool it down, but also add lubrication. So paint gloss isn't going to interfere with the cutting ability of the product, but if anything, I'm just going to use the lubricants that are left over in it, add a little bit of a slicker wipe off when I go for the wipe off, and also give me more working time with my compound. So basically, this compound right here that's already starting to kind of dry up and haze over, I'm going to be able to kind of reinvigorate that with using a quick detailer to give myself more working time, and I don't have to switch my pad, I don't have to add more compound, and I'm going to get a better finish because of the extra lubrication and because of a cooler pad. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Before it says get some AC, we have some AC over there.
Oh yeah,
It's being channeled through multiple fans.
It's working overtime. So I can already tell a difference. I'm getting a lot more lubrication. The pad is spinning much freer, getting less grab. It's not walking. I'm gonna just kind of slow down my arm movements. And at that point, I'd say I'm pretty happy. So we're gonna grab our light here, grab our FTW. Get a light on here. We're going to just kind of shoot for the middle there and start revealing our finish.
I'm going to kind of move up to the left. Ooh, yeah. Zooming in even more. Yeah, check that out, guys.
So, anyways, so from there.
And for people who just joined in, let's show them what it looked like before over on the middle there. I mean, that's basically what it looks like.
Let me just get my quick wipe off. Cut that right down the middle there. Actually, I'll leave a little bit of a line so people can see. And this towel, like I said, it's just really nice for compound removal on harder clears like this. Feels really nice on the hands. So, here's our before over here. Pretty hammered. I mean, a lot of that stuff's deep, some of that stuff's light, but again, it's a harder clear, so it's not typically too deep to where I can't pull it out. And then if we're going to come over here, and so, again, one compound, one pad, a little bit of a quick detailer, and I'm able to pull all that nastiness out. So anyways, that's what we've been doing pretty much on this entire car, is just going through, giving it a nice one step, and pulling out as much gloss as we can, also providing some correction, and then prepping it for the coating. Now, typically, when we do cars inside here, we usually like to do like an easy one step, like a really easy one step.
Boy wants to know what compound.
Oh yeah.
What is that? What is that?
Oh, sorry, that's from the Viper chair.
Oh. All right. We sell this stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So last cut, yeah, is one of my favorites. But what I was saying is that typically we'll do a really easy polish when we have something in here. And typically it's because we're on a time crunch, right? Like today we're kind of on a time crunch, but I'm taking a little bit of time just to go live for a little bit, just to talk about it. But typically, Uno Protect is one of our favorite all-in-ones. It's able to knock things out really quick, and it also looks really good. But outside of that, though, right, whenever we're jumping into like a correction or even just fixing things like we're doing here, we'll typically jump into Last Cut or one of the RUPES compounds or one of the Koch Chemi compounds. Koch Chemi stuff we really reserve for like a full-on, basically restoration correction if we're doing some crazy sanding. But what's nice is that really any of the compounds that we do sell that are a dedicated compound are able to remove up to 1,500 sanding grit marks. And so Last Cut's able to remove up to 15 as well. And so it's a lot of fun. I like being able to see the results. I just feel bad when I see a car like this that just kind of got mistreated. But really it comes down to improper washing. I mean, chances are the person cared about the car that had it before this owner. They just didn't know how to maintain it. And so they thought they were probably doing the right thing by going down to a pay and spray and doing it themselves. But taking that brush to the car can do, you know, irreparable damage. Well, I can't say irreparable damage, but it can be repaired. It can do damage that can't always be pulled out during a correction. And so even on this trunk here, I mean, as great as that looks, I mean, as happy you know I am with that, I mean, that looks pretty dang good, right? This over here,
compared to how it was,
it's only a matter of time, right? The more times that somebody takes it through and does the improper washing on it, the more and more of that appears, the more hazy the clear begins to look, and then the more and more hazy the clear begins to look, and then just the further it gets away from being able to be corrected down the road. So
Have you done the doors yet?
So we haven't done the doors.
I wanted to know because she thought it was the hardest part.
So the doors. So the hardest part about the doors on here, which I can do part of the door just to kind of walk you guys through. Let me grab my, using my Viper chair here. Roll over. Oof. So the doors on this, the hardest part about this with using a DA is going to be pad stall. Pad stall is going to be the enemy just because of the fact that I can tell the way that this body is contoured here. I'm going to get pad stall probably close to the middle, close to this edge, close to about right here, then I might be able to make full contact, you know, about right there, but definitely not down there on that body line. So taking a look here, I mean, this is just as hammered. And there's a pretty bad gouge right there. And that is, it's not deep enough to catch my finger on, so we might be able to improve that pretty dramatically. But for the most part, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is in need of wet sanding. It's just, yeah, it's just been loved on the wrong way. That's the best way to describe it. So what I'll do is I'll probably cut around this side of the door right here. We'll do a square. Basically mask this, not mask this out, mentally mask this out, kind of Tetris this, cut this around from that top, go over that. I typically switch to a 3-inch if I'm going around those door handles, but I will still roll with the 15 millimeter 5-inch. Sorry, Danny, I get some compound on you.
I thought that came from the ceiling. Where's that coming from?
We get a little excited around here when it comes to paint polishing, am I right? So, taking my pad here. Right now I'm on a speed setting of 2. And I'm not getting any pad stall yet, which is a good sign. But once I go to bump up my speed, I most likely will start getting some pad stall. A little bit right there. Actually, this is going pretty good, if I'm being honest. Like right there, but my pad's not making perfect contact. See what I mean? It's not spinning, don't worry about that. So, yes, if I was really worried about pad stall, then yeah, absolutely. Number one, a rule of detailing, you try to have everything around you when you're working, right? So, a melee would absolutely probably cut faster in this situation. Now, how often am I polishing odd doors? Not that often. Normally I can get away with 90% of the jobs with a DA.
But if you made a living out of it and you had to do it every day.
If you had to do it every day, well, you'd use, I mean, it just depends. I mean, if you want to call it good and do what you can with a DA, you may never have to take a forced rotation. But if you are, I don't know, if you are a person that likes having multiple tools and doesn't mind switching between multiple tools, then yeah, this might be a situation where a melee might be nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a forced rotation guy, and I don't really like the finish of a forced rotation. I feel like it doesn't finish out like a DA does.
I don't think anybody uses a forced rotation to fully finish without doing something else.
I know. I'm sure
there are people who do. It's just I don't see it very often.
Yeah. In all honesty, we pick up the melee here.
Maybe like
at
the
TRC.
Guys, but
the 3401.
3401.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But I'm also not a 3401 kind of guy, right? I really like DAs, and so I don't know. That's what I grew up using, so that's what I'm used to. So anyways, a little bit of paint gloss on here. Keep working our compound. So that was paint gloss. A little bit of PNS paint gloss to just provide some lubrication to the pad, cool it down just a little bit because it's so hot in here, and just give me a better overall finish. So wiping off my compound here.
Hey, Tony! Saying, ooh boy, these action shots, sweaty face.
Is that my sweaty face or his sweaty face? Because
No.
my face is pretty sweaty right now. So we've improved on that scratch quite a bit. Not necessarily 100% perfect.
That's an FTW, Spade.
So if I... Can you see a little bit of that, Dane?
Zoom in more.
I haven't fully wiped off my compound yet, so keep in mind I gotta wipe a little bit more. Kind of a weird angle, honestly, but let's just jump over here.
Yeah, this is what it looked like before.
Yeah. So
zoom out a little, that helps.
yeah, that's pretty gnarly. I mean,
so we walk slowly over here until we get to clarity.
Yeah, that does look a ton better. Here, I'll hand you that, Dane. I'll wipe off the rest of this. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a pretty easy car to finish this out.
Yeah, that's like night and day here.
For just one stepping, but I'm telling you that RUPES Yellow Wool, definitely one of the best pads on the market, 100%. And then pairing that with TLC last cut compound, it's just a huge time saver.
They're impressed by the wool's finish.
Oh yeah, no, this wool finish is just so good, and I can't say that about every single wool, but this particular one, it's hands down one of our favorites. And the wool works great too with RUPES Uno Protect if you're looking for a little bit more cut and with an all-in-one. But this particular combination never really fails me. I mean, it's always awesome. The towel's getting finally a little bit gunked up. So I've used 2 FTWs for 3/4 of the car so far for compound removal. Only 2, which is pretty crazy. Typically I'll use multiple 365s or creature edgeless, but switching to an FTW, I've only had to use 2 towels for all that compound removal, and this towel's finally starting to get a little bit loaded, but still doing the job. So pretty happy with that. This fender take a little bit more work, but I do want to show you guys the pad washer over here. So we sold a pad washer back in the day, and it was great. It was I can't remember which version it was of the Lake Country pad washer, but we only sold maybe a couple, and we started using them in videos, and everybody said, hey, where do I buy a pad washer? Or pad washer's good. In a nutshell, pad washers are probably one of the a pad washer, a dedicated pad washer is probably one of the best investments and best tools to have in a shop that's doing consistent cutting and polishing. Now, a lot of people are fans of blowing out their pads with compressed air, and I'm not saying that that's a bad way or a wrong way or anything like that. Compressed air works great. However, compressed air really only blows out some of the buildup and some of the dust out of a pad. And when you're using compressed air, you're typically blowing out most of that dust and most of that product out of the pad, and it's got to land somewhere, right? So why do shops get so dusty? Why do cars get so much compound dust on them? Why does that happen in a shop? Typically because of compressed air. Compressed air does not contain everything. The only way that you would contain everything is if you were to vacuum the pad instead of using compressed air, right? Vacuuming the pad, probably safer in terms of keeping the amount of dust and particulates out of the air, stuff that you're not breathing in. But when it comes to a pad washer, it's a completely different setup, because a pad washer is going to isolate all of that extra debris and all that extra stuff to one enclosed container, and it's also going to clean the pad, most importantly, right? But it's also going to cool the pad down, especially when you're working on a hot day in a hot shop, right? The temperatures that a pad can reach are pretty high. So the higher the pad gets, right, the higher the temperature the pad gets, the less overall cut it's going to get, right? It's going to start, you know, dissolving the compound, and it's going to start kind of getting that weird melted look to it. It's not going to cut as great, and then the amount of heat that you're introducing, you want that cool cut, right? It's like kind of like with wet sanding, right? You're going to be able to cut a little bit faster once that sandpaper is wet. It's the same kind of concept with a pad. You should be able to cut faster, but I also think the finish is a little bit better because the pad is lubricated and it is cooler. So the whole debate is that, you know, should you compress your pads? Should you wash your pads in a sink? Should you vacuum your pads, or should you use a pad washer? I personally have always believed in the pad washers. The only downside to a pad washer I can see is possible delamination of the pad from the Velcro backing. And the only reason why that would happen is because you're introducing liquid to the pad. And it's held together by adhesive, right? So the more liquid introduced, the shorter lifespan that pad may have. At the same time, though, it's the more productivity you have with being able to work longer, work faster, and then clean on the fly. And the trade-off of that versus your time versus the cost you have into the pad versus using compressed air, creating more time by spreading dust all over the car for extra wipe downs, extra cleanup, and all of that. So it's kind of the time is money trade-off. And for me personally, I like the convenience of a pad washer. I think my pads cut better. I think the finish is better, and all of the above. Yeah, I can show it to you guys. So if you want to come over here.
They're wondering if we sell it.
So we do sell it. But keep in mind, a pad washer is not cheap. Oh, dang, you sat right on the cord there. So you're still on the cord.
Okay, there we go.
So a pad washer is not cheap. Pad washer, I want to say these are well over $100, and you're probably thinking, okay,
I'm paying that much for a bucket.
I'm paying that much for a bucket, Anthony. Yes, essentially. But I'll kind of show you how this works. So the pad washer itself, this is what it looks like. It's kind of had the same design for many, many years now. And how this works is when I take my pad or my machine and I press down on here, I am pushing water up into the pad. See right here?
Well, if you hold it up, I can push it with my hand.
Well, yeah, I'll show them really quick. See when I press there? See the water being dispersed throughout my pad? Now, if I remove that, I press down on this. So every time I press down on this, it's shooting that liquid up into my pad. Now, the liquid I have in here is actually O&R at 256:1 because O&R is a great cleaning polymer. It also adds some lubrication and it encapsulates things. So what it does is it encapsulates any of those really hard particulates maybe from the compound that have built up or anything like that, maybe any kind of contaminants that I've picked up in my pad from polishing that I didn't get through when I was claying, and it'll scoop that up, encapsulate it, and then drain off into the side, right? So now you're probably wondering, where does the liquid come from and where does it go, right? So it's just a normal bucket. Lift this up. And so this is what I didn't want to do, I mean on camera. But up top here, before it all drains out, this is all my compound water. Look at all that crap I've picked up into my pad. Do you see all that? Some bugs, I have some weird debris, and then this will continue to drain. I should have lifted my bottom piece, but it's okay. So this right here is my runoff. Think of this as my capture mat. Everything that comes off my pad comes into here, right? And then, in a perfect world, if I would have picked this up the right way, everything that would have been down in here would have been perfectly clean O&R water, right? So, clean water is pulled up through this tube right here. It sucks down right inside that where that O-ring is. Clean water comes up, all my dirty water runs off, and it gets held in that middle tank area. So, dang it, I should have cleaned my pad before emptying all that nasty compound water into that. Anyways, I'll just show you just a quick example here. So, I already have wetness in my pad. It's already quite a bit. So what I'll do here is I use these little kind of, it's like feels a little rough.
They're nubs.
Little nubs. And I basically turn my pad on, rubbing it onto those nubs to help clean the pad and then release a lot of that water, and then I can spin my pad freely. So go like this. Crank it up.
Glad I wore black today.
Does that look clean to you?
Damn.
Looks clean to me, man. And it is slightly, it's dry, it's just slightly damp. You can feel it, Dane, if you want to feel it.
Oh yeah. It feels like something that was soaking wet, and then you dried it, and it's just got the residual left. But it feels dry in the dense.
But I mean, that is
clean.
And you can't tell me that compressed air can get a pad as clean as this can get it. It's just not. No. It's not possible. And so you also, if your pad's getting really bad, you can spray them a little bit of APC first before running them through the pad cleaner, and I find that that's really helpful as well. I get a much cleaner, faster result. But I cannot live without a pad washer, especially when I'm doing full corrections or doing details on the side, or even being here in the studio. Our pad washer that we had for the longest time actually ended up breaking, and we had to.
I think we just sold two, but there's a third person coming in saying, "Do it again! I just got here."
Yeah. So they are, man, they're incredible, and so they're worth the money. If you're thinking, oh, Anthony, that's a lot of money for a bucket. Dude, I'm telling you, that fast, right? You saw how fast I cleaned this pad. More compound on the pad, I'm back to cutting. And I'm on the same pad, right? And then once this pad starts, let's just say the foam starts to break down a little bit, or it starts getting too soft, I pull this off, let that dry on top of there. Anything that needs to drain out sits right there, and I go and grab myself a new pad. And that's what I would do. And
hand wash just popped in. Why not use compressed air? We kind of touched on it, but
yeah,
you can, and you do.
You can, and we do use compressed air quite often. I just think that from a standpoint of just keeping product out of the pad and having a better cut and better finish, and reducing the amount of dusting that can be happening on the car with using compressed air, this is the best way. And so I really think the only reason why so many trained people on compressed air is because of the likelihood of having compressed air in a shop is pretty high. And I also feel like
it didn't require an extra tool.
Well, I think they've just been doing it for so long, right? And they didn't require an extra tool, and pad washers weren't invented. And I think a lot of old school people were just so used to using compressed air, they just stuck with it, and that just became kind of the norm. The other thing, too, is compressed air is less likely to damage a pad in comparison to a pad washer that is going to introduce a lot of water, right? Like, the chance of this delaminating is pretty low, but I'm saying when I'm using a ton of liquid, a ton of water, if I'm washing this time and time again, there always could be that chance. However, people typically wash their pads in a washing machine and there's no delamination. So there's a lot of trade-offs there. I'm just saying that in terms of trading out your time of your cleanup and inhaling all that compound dust and all of that with using compressed air versus using a pad washer, which is faster, safer, enclosed, with the downside that you might go through a pad maybe 25% faster than you would any other way. That's worth it to me because I'm saving so much time.
Everything else being equal, you're going to get better results doing this than you will using.
Oh yeah, my finishes are always better with a pad washer, 100%.
And I see some concerns about what about getting the pad too wet? Is it too wet in the pad? It's like, no, it's actually dry now.
This is dry. I've spun it dry. This is a dry pad. So, and then also too, especially when using wool pads, I like, RUPES doesn't like when I use a pad washer with wool pads. I get it. That's fine because they say don't use it on there. It's gonna ruin the pad. I get it. My linting gone with a wool pad when I'm using a pad washer. That first pad clean I do, the residual lint is gone. It is literally gone. Why does linting happen? Linting happens when things get too hot. It happens when things get too hot and particulates of the wool start to break off. That's why linting happens, right? The pad stays cool, the pad stays lubricated, the pad stays slightly damp. You are going to get like literally 95% less linting than you would if it was a dry pad that had been overheated, over compounded, and you know, that's not really a word, but you get what I'm trying to say. So anyway, this wasn't a live feed to sell pad washers. That's not why I'm here. Honestly, I was just here just to show you using the FTW for compound removal, but I thought maybe it turned into a good lesson on why we like to use pad washers.
We don't show them very often.
And we don't show them very often. Well, we just started selling these not too long ago, and we don't have very many of them. We're doing a test run right now just to see if people like them, and if we sell them and people like them.
What he's saying is limited supply, get them while you can.
I don't know, yeah, I guess. Anyway, pretty happy with this thing though, and so I'm happy with the finish. But at this point in time, I do have to cut the live short because we have to get this car finished here in like roughly 30 minutes. So we're going to get me, the Master of Shine, Gabe on it, and we're going to start laying down some serious compounds. So anyways, hopefully you guys learned something new. Check out the pad washers. We have them at theradcompany.com. Try the FTW for your next time when you're doing compound removal, and if you're doing a one-step on some type of German hard paint. Telling you, give the yellow wool, this right here, and the last cut compound a go. It's going to finish out beautifully, and you'll have a lot of fun.
Thanks, Anthony.
Cool. See ya.